So I thought I'd just do a quick demo and kind of explanation about how some of these integrations work, because I feel like to begin with, especially if you're sort of more early on in the journey of building your system, then they can feel a little bit sort of impossible and out there. And for me, I had to kind of teach myself. So I think the most important thing, and I find myself saying this all the time, is that you have your system clear. You understand how it works. You understand what all the pieces are. Because it's only then that you can talk about integrating different tools with one another. If how you need the information to flow in your system isn't clear, then integrating them is not really going to help. So in this case, I'm working with a client who's running these pretty amazing events, and when people are kind of signed up to the event, then he sends them this Jot form. And what we need at the Notion end is we need the Jot form to create a contact in our system. So we've got a people database, and so we want it to create a contact for that person. But then what we also need is we need it to create an entry in the guest list for the event that's connected back to the contact. Because our system says that we need a list of contacts because people might come to multiple events and there's some information about them, like their phone and their email, that's not going to change over time. So we want a central contacts list. But then because we run these events and there's multiple in the year and someone might come to, a couple of them, there's a whole lot of event specific information that we might need, like their flights in and out for the event, for instance. So you can see here in this Jot form, so this is Make if you haven't come across it before, and these are the different modules in our scenario. And the Jot form one just literally says, hey, here's a new entry to this form. Whenever someone makes an entry, trigger this thing. So this is the trigger. And then the events, the scenario is triggered. And then what we do is we say, okay, cool. When a new form comes in, then create an entry in our Notion contacts database and put their first name and their email address and, all of these different things that are in the form, push it in here for us. And so it does that. And then we say, all right, now that we've got our contact in place, let's make an entry in the guest list. And so the guest list, it puts an entry in there, and it actually uses the info from the first Notion module and the contact that's created to link it back to this second entry. Sorry, to link the guest list entry back to the contact. So it's not super complicated. We're not doing lots of, juggling of info, but you can see how this is a great example of an integration between the Jot form world and the Notion world, because if we didn't do this, then my client would be getting a big list of people filling in the form, and then he would have to be manually copying the information from the form into Notion, or he would be having to do something like export a CSV out of Jot form of all the participants once, it's at a certain point, and then importing them into Notion, but he'd have to be putting them into two different places in Notion, which would be really messy. And, he'd have that sort of issue, well, do I wait until all the forms are in? Or, do I do it every week or whatever? So this kind of integration, not very difficult to set up, but makes a massive difference in terms of the workflow. Anyway, hope that's helpful. Keen for any questions or, a scenario that you want to propose. Could we build an integration like this? If you've got something like that, please come back to me.